Welcome to this online lecture for portfolios. Within this lecture, I'm going to cover various guidelines towards portfolios. I'm going to cover particularly the relevant parts to each practice learning record. And I'm going to also perhaps answer some of the questions that you might have about portfolios, since they change each year. Depending on the module you're doing, or even the guidelines that the university or the Light project would like for you to follow. Portfolios. This can be practice learning record, a study pack, or it might even be a report on something. They are a document where you compile a variety of information. There may be statements as well as essays included in these. You will often be prompted to include photos and other appendices such as addendas and other relevant things that you've collected. The language style within each portfolio may vary. You may have statements instead of sentences. You may have you'll have things from reflective essays right through to reports written by other people that you've had to collate and bring together. As with presentations, each portfolio will have a variety of requirements that we wish you to fulfill. Please refer to the relevant handbook of each module, especially for SERP, which will have been updated since the year previous, and also SERP 1 will be very different from SERP 2, particularly within the area of the reflective assessment. I'll cover this again in a moment. Here's an example that applies to the practice learning record that you will need to do for SERP 1, 2 or 3, and I'll explain the varieties as we go through. So you'll have your cover page, as you do with any assignment that you submit through Turnitin. You will need a title, contents page. This breaks down what you're going to have within this record. You need to have the description of the placement, why you chose the placement, and its relevance towards evangelism, and showing your understanding of that. We'd like some photos of your placement. You must have permission to photograph anyone in these photos before attaching it to your assignment. You must also have within your record some form of informed consent, and the forms will be part of your handbook. They will be somewhere in your handbook for that module. You will have, for each SERP module, you'll have a set of reflections you need to do, and this will vary depending on which module it is you're doing. You will also need a reflexive journal, and the size and scale of this will vary depending on what level you're studying at. You will also need to include your placement supervision report, any informed consent forms you have, and as well as your references, you may wish to include appendices such as a verbatim or whatever is required, depending on the module you are doing. So there are no two portfolios the same, just as none of your assignments will be the same, because that would be plagiarism. That's another issue. We don't want a study pack to be a creative journal. So think about what it is that you're expected to present as an assignment, and adjust your language and format according to what it is that you're to submit. With each type of assignment, your lecturer will make it clear what it is they would like you to have within it. Remember, the size of your assignment has limitations. Do keep up with your different modules, particularly with SERP. The guidelines will vary from year to year. So if you've done SERP 1 and 2, do not assume you know what will be required in SERP 3, because occasionally we just tweak this from year to year. Your word count is an approximate, but there are recommended amounts of words per section, particularly as I've just shown you with your practice learning record. But the word count equivalent is quite important, so that you don't lose focus within what you're doing. There are also the reflective essays to the SERP that must be within the certain amount that you have been recommended there. So just be mindful of an observation about something may not have the same restriction of words as an essay within a report, if that makes sense. So general guidelines, just explained about the word counts. Make sure the style and the approach is appropriate, as I've said before. Make sure that everything that's expected there is there. Many of the assignments that don't do well within the portfolios are those that actually haven't included all of the components that have been asked for, and without each of these components, it is just simply not possible to reach the top grades. So it's a simple way of making sure that you're within a comfortable pass and even able to get those top grades. If you haven't been asked for photos, it is sometimes appropriate to still include these where you want to support your work with further evidence. Please use links, put them into your cover page or into your assignment in order that we can access everything that you have referred to. Also, you can include your own drawings and the things that you've done to prepare for each assignment. It's always good to see evidence of this. If you've done something practical as a response to something you've prepared, please make sure you've got risk assessments and informed consent forms attached where they're relevant. And again, your lecturer should give you some idea about whether they're expecting this, depending on the nature of the assignment you're going to complete. The current size, the optimum size of a document on Turnitin is 20 MB. So that may change, but just be aware that the size of what you're doing may be bigger than it can actually take on the Turnitin site. And another thing about that is it can take a long time to upload things if they aren't actually formatted the correct way. So give yourself plenty of time to submit, but you will already know that by now. And of course, always include 5 references in your bibliography. I know that certain records may be based on your own research, and you may feel it's difficult to include external sources, but it is still important at this level of study that you are getting input from academic sources in order that your reflections are more constructive and demonstrate a deeper level of inquiry.